Hi, this is Trey Pass. I want to do another Mr. Nightmare story. This one is called Four True Disturbing Police Horror Stories, Volume 3. Again, I love doing these Mr. Nightmare stories. So I'm going to do this one, and I think there's another one. Okay, so let's get right to it. I'll be right back with my reaction. Okay, put the headphones on. Okay. All right. Let's get right to it. Okay, here we go. Right now, go. Police Officer Horror Stories. Story 1 by RJ.
I'm a police officer in South Jersey.
Okay.
I've been doing this since I was 23.
Okay.
For the most part, it's not as exciting as it's cracked up to be. Not a whole lot happens in my county.
Okay.
Usually the worst calls are disturbance calls or an occasional shoplifting, with something a little more serious sprinkled in there once in a blue moon.
Okay.
I've done just about every possible shift there is. I did my time on the night shift, and there were definitely some weirder calls during the night shift than the day shift.
Okay.
But this one time I was working the night shift, I didn't get any calls. I was just cruising on a quiet road with no streetlights and woods on both sides.
Uh-oh.
I saw the reflection of taillights suddenly approaching on the right-hand side of the road on the grass.
Okay.
As I got closer, I saw that the driver's side door was open. I started to veer onto the grass as I slowed down, fully planning on getting out to see if the driver needed assistance.
Okay.
I saw someone step out of the car, stand by the door for a second, then started to run into the woods.
Uh-oh.
I radioed the codes for a suspicious person or vehicle, then got out of the car with my flashlight on and my hand on my holster just in case.
Exactly.
In this situation, I had to expect the worst.
Yep.
I got to the front door of the car and looked inside, half expecting to see someone else sitting in there, but the car seemed empty. There was a seriously foul odor emanating from inside the car, though.
Uh-oh.
It smelled like a rotting animal. I called out to the woods, asking if anybody's there and needs assistance, and I stepped to the tree line, waving the flashlight around. I went back to the car to take a closer look inside the passenger side. There were multiple bloodied tissues and paper towels on the floor on the passenger side, as well as the rear seats.
Uh-oh.
They were soaked in blood. The entire papers were dark red. At some point while looking inside the car, I heard footsteps inside the woods.
Uh-oh.
I spun around with my flashlight and yelled, "Come out of the woods." I didn't see anyone. Someone was hiding in there, and that was confirmed when I heard a deep voice somewhere beyond the trees and shrubs. I had no idea what the voice said.
Uh-oh.
I responded saying, "Show yourself, are you hurt?" I prepared to unholster my gun as I walked a little closer. I repeated myself, asking, "Are you hurt?" No response. The voice I heard before didn't sound like a person in pain bleeding out. Additionally, why would they run into the woods upon seeing a police car?
Exactly.
Something was way off. I went back to the car and requested assistance. I noticed as I investigated the car further that it had no plates, and when I went back inside of the rear, I found something that made me almost puke from shock.
Uh-oh.
There was something heavy wrapped in bloodied paper towel.
Oh.
I unwrapped it with my gloves on to find a severed hand,
Oh.
and it took me a hot second to realize what it was, because it was completely dark red soaked in blood.
Jeez.
Now this situation went from a 5 to a 10.
Yeah.
I radioed that there was a possible murder and needed backup.
Yeah. Pull out your gun.
I now put my cruiser's lights on to help other officers more easily identify my location. When backup arrived, we did a thorough search of the woods, looking for possible blood trails. Nothing though. There were not even any blood trails leading from the car, which meant that the hand and blood on the tissues I found may not have been from the person who I saw run into the woods. Eventually the canine unit had to come and search for the person.
Okay.
Hours upon hours went into this search, well past dawn, turning up nothing. The vehicle was taken into custody.
Yeah.
It had been reported stolen by a resident of a nearby town, who said he had no idea who could have stolen his car.
Uh-oh.
Fingerprints had been collected from the steering wheel, and DNA testing had been done on the hand. There was not a single match to anybody in the database. To this day, there was never any progress in finding out who the driver of that car was, and whose severed hand that was.
Oh, man. That's disturbing. Story 2 by Big Blizzard.
My partner and I are assigned to a unit in the sheriff's department that handles tethers, or ankle monitors.
Okay.
One night while looking for someone that absconded the program, we followed her last known location to a somewhat shady area of our county.
Uh-oh.
Not many stops are routine, but this one was unsettling from the beginning. My partner walked to the front door, as I held the side of the house, keeping my focus on him and the side of the house.
Okay.
After knocking on the door, we could hear movement from inside. As the door opened, a middle-aged woman slowly peered out of the door and looked directly at me. There was no way she knew where I was standing. I was not in view of any window at the front or side of the house.
Uh-oh.
What was strange was that most people would answer the person at the front door, not look at the side of the house first.
Yeah.
After a moment, she let us in after we asked if she knew who Camille was, who we were searching for.
Yeah.
She mumbled something to the effect that she was there. Things went from 0 to 100 immediately,
Uh-oh.
as she dropped to her hands and knees and started scooting on the floor, yelling for Camille.
What?
This lady had some obvious mental issues,
Yeah.
and we figured this Camille was a caretaker of some kind.
Yeah.
We both knew the situation was off, but started searching the house. The entire time this woman was yelling for Camille, never once getting back to her feet, just kind of following us on the ground.
Oh, man.
The time must have been around 8 p.m. and it was dark outside. The inside of the home had one light on. There were no TVs or any electronics of any kind.
Oh.
The house had a strange feeling to it. The layout of this older style home had about 4 bedrooms and 2 floors. Every time I left a room, I swear I was in a part of the house I had not just been in.
Jesus.
I would enter a hallway and seemingly be in another part of the house, like I entered a dimensional gap or something.
Jeez.
The woman would sometimes be right behind me without making a sound.
Whoa.
I was starting to question how all of this was possible. At one point, we both entered the upstairs, which looked to be a regular upstairs with bedrooms,
Okay.
or maybe a bathroom at the top of the stairs. As we tried to open the door, initially it would not budge. It appeared that it had been sealed somehow, like it had been painted over, and paint had dried in the seams of the door. After putting in a little extra effort, the door opened,
Okay.
revealing an attic, not bedrooms. If you remember Paranormal Activity, when the guy finds a picture of his wife and child in the insulation, that's what it looked like. There was nothing but storage space, insulation, and an older style light bulb with a string hanging from it. The lady was just sitting at the bottom of the stairs watching us, occasionally yelling for Camille.
Oh.
After what seemed like an hour of searching this house over and over again, going into rooms I swear I had just left,
Yeah.
we called it and cleared the property. As we drove off, the woman was now standing right in front of the door, staring at us as we left.
Jesus.
According to when we called dispatch and when we cleared, we were only there for 20 minutes. It felt like we were there for well over an hour or two. I don't know what was more unsettling, the fact that it was late at night, the lady yelling Camille's name and scooting on her hands and knees, her quietly showing up behind me when I had not heard her move, or the fact that she was standing at the door just staring at us as we left.
Jeez.
We have not returned to that house.
Whoa. That's creepy. Story 3. Sammy Rayfield.
My family and I live throughout the middle of Georgia. Not many stories come out of this area, and this one I'm about to share makes us glad of that fact. My cousin, who I'll call Bob, has been a police officer for 5 years. He went into the force bright-eyed and optimistic.
Okay.
I guess like so many do. It sounds corny, but he genuinely wanted to make a difference and help improve the lives of the people in his community.
Okay.
One day, they got an alert from a house somewhere between Macon and Roberta. To hear Bob tell it, it was a place that people had thought was abandoned for years.
Yeah.
Gives you an idea of the state the house was in. Anyway, when they arrived, an older gentleman was sitting on the steps outside the front door with his hand in his pockets.
Okay.
Bob and the other officer approached him and were alarmed to see that the man was crying. Well, not crying really, but sobbing.
Okay.
And he was also muttering something to himself about how awful it is. They tried to question the man, but the guy was completely incoherent.
Okay.
It didn't take but a couple of seconds to figure out that the poor guy was traumatized. As his partner called for another car, Bob drew his gun and decided to enter the house.
Oh.
The smell inside the house was overpoweringly rancid.
Oh.
He told me that the kitchen and living room were a total wreck.
Oh.
It was clear the owners of the house were hoarders.
Yeah.
Pots and pans stacked damn near to the ceiling,
Jeez.
spoiled food all over the table, takeout containers scattered all over the floor.
Jesus.
Disgusting. As procedure dictates, Bob called out to see if anyone would answer. Silence. He told me that even with all his training and experience over those past 5 years, His heart rate was already building
I
fast.
can imagine.
Gun at the ready, he checked out the living room and saw nobody was there either. He made his way down the hall where the smell was getting much worse.
Oh boy.
Just as it all became too much, he covered his mouth and nose and opened the door to what he suspected was the bedroom.
Uh-oh.
In the bed were two corpses,
Oh!
gray-skinned and covered with flies.
Oh!
Despite his churning stomach, Bob decided to go in for a closer look, a decision he said he's regretted since.
Oh!
One of the corpses was male, the other female. The skin on their faces was already starting to fall off, and the flies were flying in and out of their mouths.
Oh!
Some were landing and sitting on their eyeballs.
Oh!
As Bob inspected the female's corpse, he was horrified to find that she was holding an even smaller dead body,
Oh!
an infant. It wasn't until a large cockroach crawled out of the dead infant's mouth that Bob ran outside the house, doubled over, and threw up his lunch all over the steps the man had been sitting on.
I don't blame him.
When the other cars finally arrived, they were able to do a more thorough inspection. The older man that Bob and his partner had met when they first arrived was a former coworker and friend of the dead man. They'd worked together at a peach packing company. The man hadn't showed up for over a week, and he'd gone to their house to see if he was okay.
Yeah.
The poor man had been the first to see that horrible sight in the bedroom.
Jesus.
The story that they put together was that the wife and husband had at some point become addicted to opioids.
Oh.
After some kind of operation a year or so before, they had started abusing painkillers together, and the addiction grew and grew until they started shooting up and snorting heroin.
Oh.
Their daughter, who wasn't more than a couple years old, had died of neglect.
Oh.
When the husband and wife discovered their baby's corpse, they finally broke completely and decided to end themselves.
Oh.
The coroner found enough heroin in both their bodies to kill them twice over.
Jesus.
Bob's still on the force, but he started drinking a little too much after that.
I can imagine.
He's been going to therapy, and he's since managed to get his drinking under control.
Oof.
But almost every time we talk, he says that he still has nightmares about that poor child's corpse.
Exactly.
And in his nightmares, the baby's still crying.
Oh. Story 4 by Simmons.
I once responded to a call of a possible breaking and entering.
Okay.
A young woman living alone called in fear, saying that she came home to find a broken window downstairs.
Okay.
But nothing seemed to be stolen, and she couldn't find anyone inside.
Okay.
But then when she went upstairs to bed, she thought she could hear footsteps moving around downstairs. Her call disconnected shortly after she said that,
Jesus.
and the woman wouldn't pick up to any of the attempted callbacks.
Uh-oh.
I took the call and arrived to the little house. I went to knock on the front door, and after a minute, I gave it another set of knocks and pressed the doorbell.
Okay.
After another minute, I tried one more time,
Yeah.
this time banging really loudly and ringing the bell again.
Oh.
When there was no answer this time, I decided to inspect the house. I walked around the house, and I found the busted window.
Uh-oh.
It was a window big enough to crawl through with ease.
Uh-oh.
I stuck my head into the dark house and yelled, "It's the police." It was silent. I radioed to dispatch that the house seemed silent. More officers were en route, but I didn't feel right waiting around in case there was someone truly in danger in the house.
Oh.
I radioed that I'm going into the house through the window, and then I climbed through it. I stepped over the shattered glass into the kitchen.
Yeah.
I drew my gun and started walking through the kitchen, hearing the glass crunching below my boots.
Jesus.
I shouted into the house to make my presence as a police officer known to anyone who was inside.
Yeah.
I didn't hear any footsteps, so I went upstairs, as the woman on the phone told dispatch that she heard footsteps downstairs, so that would mean her bedroom was upstairs.
Okay.
I wasn't trying to be too quiet as I went up the stairs,
Yeah.
but I also wasn't stomping around. I didn't know what to expect, if someone with a weapon was in the house, or if the woman was just alone in bed. I said, "Ma'am, it's a police officer. Are you here?"
Yeah.
And I heard back a soft female voice from upstairs saying yes.
Oh.
I followed the voice to one of the bedrooms, where I saw a woman sitting up in her bed under the covers.
Okay.
She looked at me, and I asked if she was okay. She said she was fine. I noticed a slight tremble in her voice.
Yeah.
I kept the lights to the bedroom off as I looked at her. There was enough natural moonlight in the room that I could examine her facial expression.
Okay.
She looked distressed. I told her I was responding to her phone call, and then I asked her why she hung up and didn't pick up the callbacks.
Somebody in that room?
She stuttered and said no one is here. I caught on to what was going on.
Yeah, somebody's in there.
I looked at the closet and made a slight head nod to her. She very slightly shook her head no.
Okay.
I looked down under the bed and pointed, and she shook her head yes.
Oh,
The weight of the pressure of what to do next was 1,000 pounds.
Jesus.
The best idea I came up with on the spot was telling her, "All right, ma'am, I just need you to sign this report form stating that I was here and there was nothing unusual."
Smart.
She said okay and got up from the bed and came over to me. And when she was close enough, I pushed her out of the room and then drew my gun and yelled, "Come out from under the bed."
There you go.
I was still shook when I saw a dark figure actually slowly coming out from under the bed.
Whoa.
I said, "Hands first and drop any weapons."
Exactly.
I heard the clank of something drop to the floor, which turned out to be a gun.
Oh.
A middle-aged man in all black clothes stepped out from under the bed with his hands up. I made the arrest on the spot and brought him outside, right around the time the other officers were arriving. The woman had hung up the phone on the police when she thought the footsteps were upstairs, and she didn't want the intruder to hear the audio from the phone call.
Yeah.
This was also why she didn't pick up the phone, because by this point, the intruder entered the room and had her at gunpoint.
Jesus.
And since the police were already coming, for whatever reason, instead of fleeing the scene, the intruder threatened to shoot the woman if she made a sound when the police came.
Whoa.
After I had rung the bell, he hid under the bed and told her to pretend he wasn't there.
Whoa.
I'm glad I was able to catch on to the situation.
Yeah.
He could have gone a number of ways if I hadn't.
Yep. Smart. You were smart. Jesus. That's freaking. Oh. Oh man. Oh. Those are some disturbing stories, especially that last one. Oh, smart. Good thing he caught on, and the lady gave him the signals. Yeah, so and he was able to pick up on it and to make the arrest, because that was very. I can't even imagine the fear she had in her from that dude underneath her bed with a gun. Exactly, because if the cop didn't catch on and stuff, the guy could have shot the cop from under the bed and then killed her. Although, like I said, more cops were coming. But that was truly frightening. Okay, lucky, like I say, it's a good thing he decided to investigate and go upstairs. Although that's got to be nerve-wracking. You're by yourself before help gets there. And let's say he decided, no, you know what? Let me wait until I get back up. The guy could have killed her and then maybe escaped out the window or something, or the back way or something. So, as props to the lady for being smart enough and to signal the officer and that he understood, and smart of him to pick up on it. And that probably saved lives right there, then and there. So, like I said, especially your cop being by yourself, you don't got your partner with you, you got to have a certain amount of nerves, because he's walking into a situation blind, basically. He doesn't know what's going on. Exactly, because all he knows is that there was a phone call from a girl saying that somebody's breaking and entering, but he doesn't know where that guy is in the house, and you're by yourself. Oh, and the guy has the advantage that he knows, he can. I guess I'm assuming he can hear, somebody coming in, but he doesn't know that there's just one cop coming in. I guess that's maybe one of them, but still, that cop was pretty brave, and I'm glad that he was able to rescue the lady and stuff and make the arrest. Ooh, that was smart. And the guy had a weapon too, which is again nerve-wracking. But the first story, oh man, on the side of the road and seeing that severed hand, and you see somebody running out of the car, you see all that blood. Oh my God. Like I said, I would have drew my weapon as soon as I saw that person running to, and you saw that blood in that car, I would have drew my weapon right away and called for backup. Said, wait a minute, because exactly, obviously the guy committed a murder and he ran off. And that could have ended badly, especially if you go searching in the wood by yourself. You don't want to do that. I'd wait for backup. Just say, there's a lot of blood in there. Just draw my weapon and keep my flashlight on the side where he ran off to, so I can make sure he doesn't sneak up on me. And I just wait for the backup to come, and then we have enough people. Then we can search in groups like that. But that's got to be freaky. He caught the guy. The guy was probably disposing of body parts and stuff. Maybe even killed the guy and chopped up the body parts and was just like, dropping body parts off in certain parts of the highway or whatever. And they sound like they didn't identify the person that got killed or the person that was driving the car, since the car was stolen. So that was another freaky story. And then the one about the ankle monitor one, that they went to that lady's house, and obviously the lady was mentally he's kind of handicapped, and they were looking all through the house. It was a creepy house. And of course, like I said, no electronics. That's for screw this. Turn all the lights on. And he's searching through the house, and the woman is like crawling right behind you. Maybe it was her caretaker that was, but the caretaker wasn't in the house, and that was just a creepy situation because you just going through the house, and he feels like he's that they were only in the house 20 minutes, but it felt like 2 hours because it could be nerve-wracking. You got to go, you and your partner going through room looking for somebody, and you can't find it, and it's dark in the house, and you see this woman that's moving silently through the house, calling that girl's name, and it just sounds like a living nightmare. Exactly. That you want to turn on all the lights in the house and say, screw this, or wait till the daytime. Like I said, you got to have a kind of special kind of nerve to go through that because that's got to be nerve-wracking. And then the third story, that one I think was the most disturbing one, where a friend goes into the house and you find the 2 corpses and the kid. Oh my God, that story is so sad. You see the guy on the stoop crying, and and then you go in the house and he finds 2, well actually 3 bodies, I guess. The man and woman and the little girl who died of neglect. And they're addicted to, and they OD, and their bodies of corpses have been there so long that flies are flying on them. Oh my God, that would mess me up for like forever to see that. That's what I say. When you become a cop, you got, besides the physical training, you got to have psychological training because everybody can't handle that. That's got to be. That's why cops have high rates of suicide and alcoholism and stuff, and divorce, because it's a mentally taxing position to be a cop, because you got to see things that normal people don't see. Domestic abuse and all this stuff, and murders and all that stuff, and just sad situations that you got to investigate, and then you got to somehow move on with your life on to the next story for another day, and it could be again another disturbing story. So that's you. Like I said, you definitely got to make sure, I guess, that the cops are mentally strong, because not everybody can handle that. That's just insane, man. Imagine finding 3 corpses in a bed, and you see the smell, and you come into a house, and then you see the 2 corpses on the bed, and flies are buzzing around, and the smell, and then you notice a little girl. Oh my God! Then you see a bug crawling out of her mouth. Oh my God! That would screw me up for life. Probably screw you up for life, because you probably have nightmares about that. Oh my God! That's just disturbing on every level. So those are 4. Like I said, being a cop, especially, I think in a cop, it's better maybe when you got a partner with you and stuff, but I know sometimes, you're on a highway and all that, and if you're in a small town and you're patrolling by yourself, I think that's dangerous. I think definitely cops should have partners. I know sometimes they don't have the budget for it, and so they let people patrol by themselves, but I think that's dangerous. I think whenever you can, you definitely should have a partner with you, because I just think because you never know what you're going to encounter, and having that backup, I think, is a good thing. But again, you see things that other people do not see, and it can mess you up for life. Okay, so that's why it's always disturbing being you got to make sure you're mentally strong to be a cop, to me. Okay, but anyway, let me know what you think of this story, Mr. Nightmare, and his 4 disturbing true cop horror stories, police horror stories, volume 3. I'll leave a link to Mr. Nightmare's channel in the description box so you can check it out for yourself. Also, links to my Facebook, my Twitter, my Instagram. Also have a link to my other channel, Bob Views and Opinions. If you check that out as well. Also have a link down below to my Patreon. His name will appear in this video somewhere, probably right here. My Patreon was only $5 a month. Tons of content on there, unedited content like Marvel shows, DC TV shows, Star Wars shows, movies, and much, much more. Follow the link below to the Patreon. And it's only $5 a month to join if you want to support me that way. Also, please give this video a thumbs up. It helps the channel, and I truly appreciate it. Also, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you know when I upload new content to this channel. And this is Trey Pastor saying so long and take care.